Hello, River City fans. It's Silent Signs from I Dream of Indie, and today we are taking a look at River City Girls Zero, a 16-bit beat-em-up. This is a Super Famicom game from 28 years ago that is just now being released in English. So this is the first game that you were actually able to play as the River City Girls as we know them, Kyoko and Misako. Not only has this title been translated into English, but you also get new manga-style cutscenes, a new anime intro, and a new theme song. In River City Girls Zero, Kunio and Riki are falsely accused of a crime they didn't commit, and a pretty harsh one, a hit and run. The boys are jailed for their crime and must break out in order to save their schools and, of course, their girlfriends. That's oversimplifying things, but the long and the short of it is it's a River City Girls game with quite a bit of story. There's actually a lot of little cutscenes where you have to read through a good amount of text. Fortunately for you, the translations are pretty great. The story itself is pretty amusing and well written, and you have the option to switch between a number of languages in the text. There is a bit of voice acting in the cutscenes, which you can also choose between English and Japanese. As far as gameplay goes, it's going to be about what you would expect from a standard brawler, lots of kicks, punches, and combos, as well as a block. The one difference here is you can actually switch between characters. This is a 1 or 2 player game, but there are 4 playable characters in all, including the 2 boys and their girlfriends. Each of the 4 characters have their own health bars, which is super helpful. However, if one of your players KOs, that's game over for them and you can't switch anymore once you're dead. Fortunately, the game is pretty generous with checkpoints. However, that doesn't mean there isn't a fair amount of challenge here. Out of nowhere, you'll run into some really severe difficulty spikes, particularly around the 5th level of this game, as well as in the game's Mode 7 motorcycle scenes. Not the greatest. Hit detection is a real problem in this scene, though it is a problem in this game in general. It would often feel like my punches and kicks were going right through the enemy, while theirs would connect without fail. While I will say it is great to see these characters in action, and there is a certain charm to the River City Girls series in general, I'd say this one is more on the frustrating side in the way that a lot of Super Nintendo games were. Did I have fun? Yes. Did I also slam my controller on my desk after trying to defeat a single boss about 50 times? Yeah. River City Girls Zero is pretty light on options. Most of them are strictly aesthetic. You can add a CRT filter or some borders or change the image size in general. It does keep the original game's password system intact, which is a nice little throwback, and it includes an image gallery, which has the original instruction manual, which is a great thing to take a look at, even though I can't read a word of Japanese. Graphically, you can clearly see the Super Nintendo style here, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love the look of a Super Nintendo game. They really stayed true to form there. Although the cutscenes are a really nice addition, it definitely fits in with that River City Girl look from the newer games. Though while we're on the subject of comparing this to the new River City Girls games, I'll say this, it is very slow. It feels slow. It feels like a Super Nintendo game, which, to be fair, was always on the slower side. You always kind of feel like you're a little bit stuck in mud. Even though you have a run option, it just never quite has the same speed as a modern game, and that's to be expected. When it comes to the soundtrack, you get a brand new theme song from Megan McDuffie and Demon Dice, which is pretty rockin'. Really enjoyed the sound of that. And then the rest of the game has what I could only assume is pretty close to the original soundtrack from the Super Nintendo era. You get those meaty MIDI synths, and it has that very muffled sound that you would expect from the SNES era. As far as sound effects go, the girls' slaps sound different from the boys' punches, which is kind of a nice touch, I suppose, but it all sounds very retro, and that's fine if you're into that. If you're not into retro games, this isn't going to be up your alley. I found it pretty pleasing. Overall, this is a fun little relic from the past. I won't say it's the most fun I've ever had with the River City Girls, but it is something fun to look back on. Also worth noting, playing this in single player is a real challenge. It was much easier to get through with a player 2, which I suppose goes without saying when it comes to brawlers. Also, we tested out the handheld mode, and that seemed to work just as well as the docked mode. No performance issues worth noting here either, which is always a plus. At the end of the day, if you're a fan of the series, this is definitely one worth having in your collection, if only because it was never previously available in North America. Just don't be surprised if it kicks your butt a little bit. So will you be taking on these River City bullies? Let me know in the comments down below. Before I go, I just want to thank our indie warriors, Bill T, Christian Cruz, Kevilo, Mitchell Hall, Chris Jackson, Nathan Moore, Adriana Amato, CJR, C Coil, Skeptism, Haley, Julian Colbus, Jen Rose, Jesse, CPM, Bunny, JRS8, Raylan, Marky Mint, Dave Harp, Peekaboo, Lex Noyle, Eric, PSC, King of the Hatch, Carmine Red, and Larkison. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, don't forget you can subscribe down below so you don't miss any reviews or previews, and check out the description box if you'd like to see how to become an indie warrior yourself. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.